Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ozark Season 4, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we pick up with that tense scene between Maya and Navarro. Now, wouldn't Navarro really pop Maya, especially because, she's the one in position to give you everything you need, but it's just kind of still a tense thing of I never know how this could pop out. It was of course he wouldn't kill her, but still I don't know. The fact is he's kind of hey, so basically talking about what's your relationship with Marty, and she's oh, it's born of mutual respect, and it's right, isn't doesn't it sound like you're more useful to him, and she's we're useful to each other. And so it's okay, cool. So tell me about this deal. It's okay, for this deal, you're going to have to spend at least 5 years in federal prison. You're going to have to give up the names of your organization, give up names and places of everyone you've ever killed, give up your guns, give up your product. You're going to have to basically dismantle a lot of stuff. And she's basically if you're not willing to talk beyond, if you're not even willing to start those conversations, then come to me when you're ready. And she just straight up gets up and walks away. I'm I'm surprised he just lets you do that. But he is kind of giggling. He's kind of not giggling, but he's haha. So it's oh, it seems like he likes you, but it also could be just him being nah, I'm actually, that's this scary laugh, haha, I'm actually pissed, but I'm trying to act cool and calm and collected because I don't want you to have the satisfaction of knowing you got underneath my skin. So didn't go the way either one of them was hoping, but I mean, obviously Maya's also I'm not going to give you what you want without some realistic things of right, I need you to give me some stuff. It's right, I basically took down, help you take down essentially your competition and stuff like that. Because they actually started off with he's yeah, I heard you got a newborn. She's he's yeah, I had one too. He's well, and she's yeah, 2 months old until the Lagunas ended up almost killing him. And she was and Navarro was yeah, that's true. But it's luckily she was able to get back to her son, but also was don't fucking call me again, unless your boss is willing to talk. Until then, get away from me. And I love that Marty calls up Navarro, and Navarro's yeah, get her back. And he's yeah, I think she's going to need a minute. He's no, Marty, you don't understand. You don't win until I win. I'm I love that's the theme of the episode. No, you don't win until I win. I even love later on, Marty worded it differently. What was it? It was we don't win if you don't win. He's no. You don't win until I win. That's, he's there's a big difference in that wording. It's no. Once I win, then it'll eventually come down to you winning. But I gotta win first. There's a big difference there. I thought that was kind of neat. But a lot of moving pieces to the everything that's going on in this episode. Let's first start off with the birds, which you had Wendy doing her own thing this episode. At first I was what is she doing? And she's building a little thing that she wants Jonah and Charlotte out there for. It's right, this is our little place where we can come and reminisce about Ben, and I always keep it lit over here. She's I'm sorry, I've asked so much of you guys. I know it's our fault that we're here, but I want you guys to know that we acknowledge that it's our fault that this has all happened, and we've asked so much of you. So, and Charlotte was the first one to be no, Mom, it's not your fault. You can tell Jonah was over there okay, I'm listening. So, and it's right, Ben will always be here. And then Jonah, being a smart Alec, was well, he's not. And Charlotte was don't be an asshole. It's well, because he knows where Ben is. Ben is with Ruth. And I'm sure for Jonah, it's no, if I want to see Ben anytime, I can go over to Ruth's. You're only doing this because you can't actually get his ashes back from Ruth. So that's why you're kind of doing this even more so now. And so it's kind of more so a spit in the face to Ruth. That's the thing. Ruth and Wendy are a lot alike in many different ways. That they are stubborn, and they're both very short-tempered. And so when basically Jonah made a remark of right, you'll make one of these for me when I die, right? When you kill me, you can make one of these for me. And obviously Charlotte's don't worry, Mom, he'll come around. Wendy flipped it and then went in there, cut off the power to the basement, and then put a lock on the fuse box. I was that's mega level petty. I love it. It's like, yeah. And even talking to later on, Jonah's like, when he's talking to Marty, he's like, yeah, even that will kind of screw things up because the transaction was partway through and it getting interrupted. It's like, yeah, then like the federal government starts paying attention and starts locking down those accounts. So he has to kind of start from scratch in certain, like, he has to kind of build up other accounts to kind of make up for that because she kind of screwed the pooch on that. So, so it's like, yeah, because I love that Marty didn't hear about it until like, wait, she cut off the power to the basement? And he's like, huh, he didn't know about that because Wendy sure didn't bring that up. She's just like, yeah, but things between me and Jonah are good. She didn't bring up her part of it. Because Wendy's got Charlotte on her side, so despite everything, despite knowing she's responsible for Ben's death, Charlotte was rebellious, but like Charlotte's come around. Jonah hasn't. Like, this was the final straw. This was the thing that, like, this is the thing that broke him with his mom and everything. Like, him and his dad are good. Him and Charlotte have their disagreements, but him and Charlotte are good. It's mainly beef between him and his mom. I mean, maybe the argument is he's so much like his mom that that's why they're butting heads so much, maybe. Personality-wise and all that stuff. I mean, because we know about Wendy's past a tiny bit, that Wendy's always had a little bit of a darker side. She's always kind of been a little off herself, so maybe, you know, that's kind of where Jonah kind of gets a little bit of that darkness as her side of the family. So, I just think that's so fascinating that they bump heads so much. To the point when they were leaving for Chicago, and Marty was like, really? You're not going to say goodbye to him, even though me and Charlotte did. He's like, fantastic. It's just because she's so stubborn, because she's like, oh, what? You want me to beg him to come along with us or something? I'm like, come on. But I get it. Sometimes, like, kids are, like, such snot little nosed brats that, like, yeah, you're like, oh, you want, I'm supposed to be, like, the civil adult. I try reaching out to him. What do he do? He spit in my face. Understandable. Like, he has every right to feel the way he does. Like, not only did you kill his uncle, who was like his best friend, you also, like, it's not like he had to find that out from you. He found it out from Helen, of all people, so it kind of sucks. Especially because Jonah decides to move out because of all this. And once again, I love Marty being like, well, it looks like this is about to happen. And then, like, when she was like, Jonah, don't go with Ruth. The fact of the matter is, she's the reason why your uncle got killed. She let him out of prison. She might as well kill him, like, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I love the entire time Marty's like, Wendy. And then he's just like over there calm as a cucumber. And she's like, Wendy, what are you doing? And she's like, trying to fight for my family. What the fuck are you doing? Because, like, I love that they have very different approaches, because Marty has the even killed or laissez-faire approach. And then, like, you have Wendy kind of spiraling a little bit, because it's like, for one, she can't stand the notion of, like, her children hating her. She can't stand it. Once again, her and Charlotte had their beef in the beginning, but, like, they've shifted around. Because I love the whole thing of, like, Wendy, and I'm worried about this, because Wendy made a point to be like, he thinks he has other places to go. Eventually he'll get to the point where he realizes he has nowhere else to go. I mean, like, Charlotte, look, she came back to us, but Marty was like, yeah, because she realized she had nowhere else to go. It's like, yeah, and Jonah will realize the same thing too. Like, Ruth and Darlene, they're not going to protect him. Like, I mean, we're talking about the same woman that kidnapped him and shaved his head. Like, no. And even if Jonah doesn't outwardly say it, you can see it in the way he is in scenes around Darlene. It still triggers him a little bit. He kind of has some PTSD from it, because he said himself in the beginning, he told Ruth, he's like, you know that lady's batshit crazy. It's like, she is. And, you know, he still knows it, that he's afraid that she'll fly off on the handle at any point in time. So he still gets a little, like, nervous around her. He won't say anything, but you could just tell by his body language. Like, the moment she showed up at, like, the hotel at one point, like, he got up from his seat and he kind of backed away, like, tried to get as far, like, further away from the window and door. I don't know whether he even realizes he's doing that, or is that kind of like a subconscious movement now, just because of, yeah, like, even though he's a little older, even though everything is what it is, he's still a little freaked out by her. Once again, understandably, Darlene is crazy as hell. So when it comes to someone unpredictable like that, of course you're going to feel a certain way, and probably your body's just going to have certain natural reactions to being around her. So, because Marty and Wendy are going to Chicago for the purposes of, yeah, we need to go there so that we could talk to Shaw, give her a sample of the drugs, and we can keep our, you know, this arrangement going. Charlotte's going there because Aaron ringed her up, was like, yo, what happened to my mom? It's like, I have no idea. It's like, no, they got to know something. Like, come on, what happened? Like, oh, did you guys do something to her or something? It's like, no. Like, why would you even think something like that? It's like, you know who your mom worked for. Like, when no one else was going to tell you the truth, I was honest with you. I told you what was what with your mom. So, And I was curious. I was like, is Charlotte going to tell her the truth? She does, but she's like, I'd rather have that conversation face to face. So they ultimately do. And I love Erin being like, well, how do I know your parents didn't do it? She's like, why would my parents send me here if they actually did it? It's like, because they want me to stop talking. And I love Charlotte's like, truth be told is, you do need to stop talking. Like, it's like, the sad thing is, Marty and Wendy had nothing to do with it. Well, I guess truth be told is, they had everything to do with it. Not on purpose, though. Navarro chose them over Helen. Like, they didn't know that Helen was going to get popped. Helen didn't know she was about to get popped, obviously. It came as a surprise to everyone. Us as the audience, as well as all three of them. You know, split second before Helen got. Like, I'm sure it surprised her as hell. But maybe it happened so fast she didn't even realize what was happening. So, but Charlotte lays it out for her. Do not talk to anyone about this. Your brother, your dad, his girlfriend, they will all die. You will all die if you do this, because this is the people you're mixed up with. And it's like, she's like, you don't know that will happen. No. Trust me, this will happen. It's like, shut up. You're new to finding out the truth about this. And I've known for a very long time, like, what we've been mixed up in. So don't come to me like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. And I love Charlotte making it clear too. Right. Even though my parents may not have had anything to do with Helen's death, don't get it twisted. If it comes down to, if it's a must, we are people who are willing to do whatever it takes if we're backed into a corner, and that's our only option. So we will get you if that comes down to it. So it's like, that's a promise. I was like, yeah. I mean, granted, that's me ad-libbing it a little bit, but I'm like, yo. Once again, Charlotte kind of embracing this. I mean, to be fair, the entire family's embracing the crime side of things. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I do love that Javi's the one that volunteered to go. And I even love that, like, Navarro was like, no, you're not going to go. He's like, oh, like, let me make sure that, you know, Shaw knows, like, her place, that she's not trying to screw us in the deal or whatever. He's like, Javi, I'm tired. Leave me alone. Javi ends up showing up, like, with the sample. I was immediately, he's going to fuck it up. He's going to fuck it up with his impatience. Which, once again, ironic, because even though Navarro acts like, oh, he's the patient person, he has quite the impatient streak in himself as well. It's like, yeah, I guess it's a family thing. But, yeah, Javi gets to be that. Like, I guess Navarro comes like, fine, do whatever you want to. I thought, it doesn't seem like he was doing it behind Navarro's back, because, like, why would he do that? But he ends up going and being a sample, and I was like, oh, this is going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. But it's like, oh, no, everything's okay. I even love that line he told the Shaw. It was basically like, yeah, like, I've never met a gringo that's killed more people than my family has. It's like, yeah, when you're in the opioid business, there's a good chunk of people that are kind of falling. I mean, and that's the sad thing, because Shaw feels responsible. She wants to end the drug epidemic. This is her family's legacy, but she doesn't want to accept her family's crimes. She wants to be able to she wants to continue things, but do it without becoming them, which I think is interesting, like, especially having that conversation with Wendy, who's kind of become them, like, on that side of things, which Wendy's making her moves, which we'll get to in a second. But I love that Navarro had called up Marty about, like, yo, give me Maya's phone number. He was like, no. Navarro was like, what? No. He's like, no. Like, Wendy just went to see her and settled down the fuck up you caused. You're not going to fuck this up worse than you did. And hung up on him. I was like, probably not the person to do that, but it's also like, right, Marty knows there's sometimes you have to make big baller moves, and so that had to be a move, and now it's like, right, calling you up, give up that shipment of Javi's, it's like, why would I do that? It's like, are you trying to, you know, just because you're doing this and that doesn't mean you're not trying to fuck me, Marty. He's like, the fact of the matter is, to show you I'm not fucking you, I will finally give you Maya's number, and you can talk to her yourself, give her that information. So now Maya also knows, cool, Marty, you gave him my phone number. It's like, I guess it wouldn't be as easy for a criminal to get access to that information, like your address and stuff like that. I last episode or whatever treated it like, wouldn't he be able to just easily track you down? It's like, yeah, but without causing too much of a scene and without certain channels and stuff like that you'd have to go through, it'd probably be a whole thing and probably be harder to track down because she is an FBI agent without drawing the actual FBI's attention as well. So there's probably, like, obviously Marty's the easy way to get her number or her address, but yeah, he made that sacrifice. He gave that shipment to Maya. It's supposed to be kind of like a, hey, this is kind of a sign of goodwill. Like, right, we're going in the right direction of me offering you the stuff that you want. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of debate about that 5 years because he doesn't want to serve any prison time. But we'll see how that plays out. But once again, it also depends on like what he's able to give her. But this is the opening gambit that'll lead to some talks about to her superiors about like what Navarro wants. But yeah, I love the entire time that's all happening. They're having dinner with Wendy, Marty, and Charlotte are having dinner with him. And so he finds out and he's acting like everything's okay. You know, because I was halfway expecting, I was like, the guns aren't going to be there. Javi knows what's what. He knows he's going to screw you over. And the guns end up being there. I was like, oh, I'm surprised. I thought like, but it's like, right, Javi, like, why would he know? But the way he's looking at Marty, it's like you just have that. The FBI just happens to find my shipment just when I'm having that conversation about having a shipment of guns around you. So he's like, yeah, he's suspicious of the birds. Sadly, he doesn't know the birds are doing that on. Well, they coordinated that with your uncle. But obviously it's like, yeah, he's definitely going to be keeping a closer eye on the birds because he already doesn't trust them. And now he has even less reason to. Also, him getting all close to Charlotte, it's like, yeah, that's a little creepy. But him being like, oh yeah, you should go to college, the experience and stuff like that, haha, and trying to get her to eat like oyster or whatever, or clam or whatever. And he's like, oh, you don't really eat it. You just like, you don't chew it or anything. You just kind of slurp it and just like, and I love that the moment he gets up from the table, Wendy's like, give me that. Like, don't, because even Charlotte's over there smiling like, ha ha ha, kind of looking at her parents like, this is weird, so that's interesting. But talking about Wendy, aside from all the beef with Jonah, once again, she's making some moves, shaking and moving, and doing her thing with, first and foremost, the Schaefer thing. I love that he was like, after everything, I was waiting years to tell you, fuck you to your face. And she's like, all right, so how about this? Like, oh, this is what my the Bird Foundation was. She's like, oh, so you're trying to offer me a seat on this and stuff like that. How about $150 million? I mean, your reach since retiring, yeah, it's only going as far as Illinois. The fact didn't, I said it, Illinois, because I said Illinois, like, almost like Illinois, because isn't that the thing, like, some people from Illinois say Illinois? Just like, I didn't know this was a thing. I'm from North Carolina. I've never heard this. Apparently, someone calls Asheville Ash Vegas. I heard that years ago. I was like, no, I've never heard someone refer to Asheville as Ash Vegas. Apparently, someone said they heard someone refer to it. That's the craziest thing to me. I'm going to shut up right now. But I was like, that was just the weirdest thing to me. So, like, it just triggered that in my brain. And he's like, right, your Schaefer, your influence only goes as far as Illinois. So how about this? With our backing, you take that money, you could spread your influence across like multiple states, especially like, 30 years presidency and stuff like, 30 years working towards the presidency and stuff like that with your Senate, your power could like go across the entire country. And he's like, all right. She's like, is that a yes? And he's like, it's a less vehement fuck you. I'm like, I love that line. And even Jim's like, wow, you weren't even breaking a sweat. She's like, yeah, Schaefer used to be the scariest person I've ever had to deal with. It's like, yeah, you've dealt with scarier now. So, understandable. It's like, you guys are kittens compared to Navarro. So, no. I'm good. I've been in the lion's cage. In fact, the lion's mouth a couple times. So, like, nah, like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, you guys ain't nothing compared to the lions I've dealt with up until, at this point, so. But I touched on it a little bit, but her conversation with there's her conversation with Maya, where she's like, right, as a mother, it make you do anything, and she's like, she had said her mom said something about, being a mother makes you selfish, and Wendy was like, no. Being a mother makes you fierce. It's like, right, like, because the difference is, in Maya's head, it's like, and she even says it's like, the difference between you and me is, you chose where you are. This choice was kind of thrust upon me and under these circumstances. So, because she's saying, like, there's an easier way out of this, we both know. And Wendy's like, oh no. We both know that, but eventually you'll learn for yourself that basically there is no like easy way out of this. Like, there's only this way. This is the only way any of us make it out of this. So, but like I was bringing up, her conversation with Shaw was interesting too, because like after that conversation with Shaw, it seemed like Wendy was a little bit different. Like it just seemed like looking at Chicago, especially because Charlotte made the reference of like, yeah, like walking around the park, it almost felt like we had never left. And I guess it made her kind of think back to their old lives of like, man, who we were, who they used to be, and how much they've changed, what they've done to get to where they are now. And even hearing Shaw saying that she didn't want to become like her family. Because it's like, right, like if me making this $1 billion drug deal, like what makes me any different from my brother? I don't want to end up like him. And so it's like, right, you're going to do evil, but focus on the good that you do, because you're going to be taking a whole bunch of drugs off the streets. You're going to be making a whole bunch of rehab centers. So it's like, yeah, like you're going to do some good. So focus on piling up the good that you do, and the good outweighs the bad type of thing. So, but I'm sure, and Wendy tries to justify it like that in her head, like also like, yeah, this foundation we're going to build, we could actually use that influence and everything. We're actually going to use it for some good. So it's all going to be, all the terrible stuff we've done up to now can eventually lead to us having the power and influence to do some good. That's how she tried to spin it to Jonah as well. So we'll see in the long run whether that actually ends up being the case. So then on the other side of things, we had Ruth, obviously, moving Jonah in to, do his work. And Wyatt confronts her. And I love what Wyatt brought up about, like, right, because she's like, no, I'm doing this because it's the best for the business. And I figured he was going to go down that lane of like, is this really about the business or is this about showing Marty up? And she's like, what? No, it's like, at the end of the day, it really is. She just wants to show Marty up because she wants to be like, look at what I can do. Because she even made reference to like, because he was like, oh, you're really going to make my teenage son do this? She's like, I was about his age when you got me mixed up in all of this. He was like, yeah, and look how that worked out. But it's the point of, and Wyatt makes a point of like, well, think about all the people you've ever worked with and how, like, what's the common thing of like, whenever you kind of get into fights with people, it becomes more about the fight than it does the work. And she's like, what? No, it doesn't, because it struck a chord, because it's like a thing of like, yeah, she butts heads with people, and just because she needs to prove that she's right, because like getting Jonah on her side is another middle finger to Marty and Wendy, going out on her own, finding a new business partner, showing that, I mean, because to be fair, Marty was going to leave the entire operation to her, like at the end of season 2 until like Wendy, well, not just all of season 2, like he had planned it out to do that way until Wendy like pulled the rug underneath them by making them actually go even deeper into this partnership. So she wants to already prove herself, but it's also like, because she's still like, the fact is there's still some part of her that feels the need to try and not just prove herself to Marty, but prove herself to, well, herself, and just to show him up and be like, I got this, I'm better at this than you. That side of things is kind of what's driving her actions in this regard. So, and sadly, Wyatt went off and told Darlene about what she was doing, because Darlene's trying to still get Frank to sell some of her drugs, and he won't, because once again, he doesn't want to get in the middle of all of this. Plus, because the Birds interfered, like, his men were waiting to do some stuff at some houses that it wasn't going to happen because they got the licenses, like, the Birds got the licenses revoked or whatever. So Frank is like, cool, you owe me like $500,000. And she's like, all right, you're going to be mad because once I go to someone else to distribute this, you ain't going to see a cent of it. He's like, you're going to pay me what I owe. So we'll see. Because if he tries to step to Darlene, you know how crazy Darlene is. So we've been over that in this recording alone. But I'm like, does he want that fight? Do you want that smoke? We'll see. Or will she actually try and pay him back? Because Ruth decided, bump that, I'm going to do stuff behind your back regardless. And so ultimately, she still does. And Darlene confronts her. And she's like, right, one, I'm the best partner you've ever wanted. Like, I'm very good at this. And see this money? Yeah, this is just the beginning. And then Darlene smiles at her. It's like, I knew bringing you on, because she was like, oh, I brought you on because you got balls, but like if they swell up too much, I will take them right off. Like, what's to say I don't take your head right now? She's like, 2, who's to say I won't take your head? It was like 2 or 3. She was like, I could take your head before you could take mine. But it's like, yeah, like I guess the whole thing was a test from Darlene, because Darlene's like, I knew I liked you. I knew I did a good job bringing you on. So it's like, right, Darlene was pushing her, trying to like be like push her into a corner because she wanted to see how Ruth would react, because it's like wanted to see if she would bend or break, and it's like, nope, stood fast. And it's like, good, we're Not unless Darlene did have a change of heart, but I feel like this is probably like she was playing hard to get the entire time because she really wanted to test Ruth to see if she'd had the balls to stand up to her. And it's like, you did, and you didn't. You know, we played a game of chicken and you didn't blink. So, yep, keep up the good work. So, things are looking good on that front as well. So, well, at least for like Ruth, it's like, hey, we're in business. Once again, Cartel's not too happy about that, especially because that's going to probably come into conflict with everything that the Birds / the Cartel is doing now. Navarro and his people are doing with Shaw. It's probably going to lead to some contrast of like, oh, their drugs and her drugs. That's probably going to be an issue. But once again, they made it clear, and Hobby's hovering around. So he's definitely gonna spice and heat things up. So we'll definitely have to wait and see where all that kind of takes us going forward. Like I said, what the aftermath of this whole Maya thing, considering Navarro kind of made an opening gesture by sacrificing those guns, and how Javi's going to feel about that. Is Navarro going to lord that over his head? Like, you idiot. You lost those guns. That was on you. He made it sound like there was something else they were talking about. That's what I wasn't sure. Not unless that was something else, and he hadn't heard about the guns yet. Because he was like, yeah, telling the person, like, sit on something. I'm like, that doesn't sound like that's about the guns. But maybe it's because one shipment was taken, and it's like the other shipment is ready, and it's like, no, just sit on it. Maybe that's what he was referencing. Also, I should have brought this up when I was talking about Aaron earlier. I had thrown it out there. I believe it's been a little while since I recorded the other one, but the other, like, episode 2, well, 1 and 2. I want to say I said something like, could the PI actually be like her dad or something like that? It's like, no, he's just some PI. But it's just like, man is working hard for his business. Once again, I guess that's a PI. Your name and reputation are on the line. So, of course, you're going to go like hard in the paint about it. But I was like, the way he was going so hard about this this Helen thing, I was like, why? Like, you must have some personal investment in this. It's like, no, he is just a regular PI. So that like corrects something I brought up in like the past episode or two. But just wanted to kind of include that as well. But I'm excited to see where everything ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.